In the headlines, President Park Geun-hye taps a former Navy admiral as head of Korea's new control tower for public safety, a first step in the government's reorganization in boosting safety measures since the April ferry disaster. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's special envoy flies to Moscow. Kremlin says his meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday for closed-door talks. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe says he's delaying a second sales tax hike and calls a snap election a day after the country's GDP data shows a surprise slip into recession.
Welcome to Primetime News, live from Seoul. I'm Sean Lim.
And I'm Kang Tae-ri. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We start with a set of bills which got a seal of approval from the cabinet this morning. Under the new laws, 2 new government agencies will be set up.
It's a first step in the Korean government's efforts to boost safety measures in the wake of the April ferry disaster. Our Kim Jong-un has more.
The cabinet passed 3 special bills on this Tuesday aimed at making Korea a safer place and punishing those found responsible for causing human casualties due to lax safety management. Under the amended Government Organization Act, 2 new ministry-level agencies will be set up under the Prime Minister's office. One will oversee disaster and safety management, the other will oversee government personnel matters. President Park Geun-hye tapped former Navy Admiral Park Geun-hye to head the new safety agency and Lee Geum-yeon to lead the government's Human Resources Agency. Another bill, which has been at the center of contention at the National Assembly for months, also received approval. The so-called Seoul Ferry Law will set up a special investigative committee composed of 17 members that will have 18 months to look into the cause of the ferry disaster. They will have the legal authority to summon witnesses and appoint a special prosecutor who will investigate and indict those found responsible for the tragedy. And to better compensate victims, the newly enacted Yubyung-won law, named after the deceased de facto owner of the Seoul ferry, gives the government more authority to go after and confiscate illegally obtained wealth by individuals or companies. Even related third parties involved in an unlawful act can be subject to asset seizures. Ultimately, it's aimed at holding those accountable for tragedies that result in death. The 3 special bills come as part of government efforts to respond to fierce public criticism over its failed rescue operations following the fatal Seoul ferry sinking. Kim Jong-un, Arirang News.
North Korean envoy Choi Ryong-hae is meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin on this Tuesday as his top agenda during his visit to Russia. According to the Kremlin palace officials, the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's special delegation will visit Putin for a closed-door meeting at around 5 p.m. local time. During the meeting, Che is expected to pass on a personal letter from Kim Jong-un to Putin and discuss bilateral ties. The Kremlin says there will be no press conference held after the meeting. The United Nations is inching closer to adopting its strongest resolution to date on North Korea's human rights abuses. A UN committee is expected to pass it by a wide margin on Tuesday. But as our Hwang Sung-hee reports, some last-minute jockeying by an ally of Pyongyang may end up softening the language.
The UN General Assembly's third committee will vote on a resolution on North Korea's human rights violations in New York on Tuesday, after which time it would be put to a vote at a plenary UN Assembly next month. Now, the EU-led resolution calls on the UN Security Council to take the North Korean leadership to the International Criminal Court for its human rights violations for the first time. Now, this is the most strongly worded resolution since 2005, which is why North Korea has been especially vocal against it. One possible obstacle to the smooth adoption of the resolution could be Cuba's efforts to block it. Cuba submitted its own version of the resolution last week that removed the ICC referral. Instead, it recommends the international community resolve the issue through dialogue. UN human rights investigator Marzuki Darusman advises against the deletion of any clauses.
Any removal of the accountability clauses would affect a setback in efforts to pursue accountability.
A senior official at South Korea's foreign ministry says the chances of the Cuban amendment replacing the original version is below 10%. Now, the original resolution has the support of around 50 nations, including the European Union member nations, the U.S., Japan, and South Korea. The resolution has no binding power, but if adopted, would certainly help press the UN Security Council to address North Korea's human rights abuses more strongly and perhaps spur them to push for a referral of the regime to the ICC. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
Hyundai Group chairwoman Kim Jong-un has returned from her one-day trip to North Korea, where she attended an event commemorating the 16th anniversary of the Inter-Korean tourism project operated by her company. Though the tours are currently halted, Hyun told reporters that Hyundai would do everything it could to resume the joint venture. The company says the more than 6-year suspension has resulted in close to 1 trillion won in losses, or roughly some $850 million. The operation came to a stop in 2008 after a South Korean tourist was shot dead by a North Korean soldier at Mount Kumgang. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is taking a step back from his economic drive by delaying a scheduled sales tax increase until 2017. Abe made the announcement Tuesday evening, saying that the third largest economy in the world is still too weak to take on another hike. Our Shin Se-min tells us more.
The Japanese economy is still suffering from the first consumption tax hike of 5 to 8% delivered in April and is not ready for another rise in the sales tax. This, according to Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, who said that the current state of his country's economy forced him to push back a second consumption tax increase of 10% that was set for October next year. His call for a delay comes after data released Monday showed that Japan had slipped into a technical recession following a second consecutive quarterly decline in its gross domestic product. Japan's rising consumer taxes have been blamed for the decline in consumer spending, which affected the quarterly falls.
We have finally grasped this chance of breaking free from deflation which has plagued us for the past 15 years. We cannot let go of this chance. We must not return to that dark and confused period.
Analysts say another delay of the tax increase will slow down the country from repairing its public finances, but Abe said the risk to the economy was a much bigger threat. The Prime Minister also said the lower house of parliament will be dissolved this Friday and called snap elections for mid-December. The move is being seen as a push by Abe to reorganize and strengthen his set of economic policies known as Abenomics. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
A hurdle often stated for the full commercialization of electric vehicles is a battery technology, but a team of Korean researchers may have inched closer to overcoming that hurdle with a new type of battery. Kim Jong-un tells us more.
A group of Korean researchers has developed lithium-ion batteries that charge 7 times faster than conventional ones. A team of researchers from the Department of Chemical Engineering at Pohang University of Science and Technology made the batteries by exploiting inorganic materials such as silica and titanium. This is different from the traditional method of lining up various templates of colloidal crystals and Black Hawk polymers consecutively, which requires more time and effort. The team says the method also provides a better alternative for the way we synthesize materials and could bring about changes in the way we store energy in the future due to its fast delivery of electrolytes and ions from its complex porous structures. The research team says it's now working on applying their academic findings in the real world and expects to commercialize the technology in 5 years. In the meantime, the post-tech research team is eyeing ways to increase the synthetic scale of its finding for mass production. Their work was first published in the Journal of the American Chemical Society last month. Kim Jong-un, Arirang News.
A local research lab and one particular industry have found a way to secure a new source of profit. The production period of this project is set to be relatively short and the applications numerous. Son Jung-in tells us all about it.
This laboratory develops clinical medicines derived from organic materials. Scientists here try to create functional materials that are good for the body using components extracted from medicinal herbs. Their ultimate goal is to develop new types of medicines, but 30% of the experimental substances they create end up being used as the ingredients for new cosmetics. Not only does that keep the products from going to waste, but it's a boon for the lab. Compared to medicines and other health-related products, cosmetic products can be made in a relatively short period of time and have several applications.
Cosmetics bring greater rewards and have more growth potential than medicinal products as they take less time to develop.
The lab developed a functional material that was distributed to 10 local mid-sized firms, which produced sales of $21 million last year alone. And sales are expected to grow 13% this year. Korean cosmetics and skincare products have been drawing attention worldwide for their high quality and power to improve the appearance, with a number of Korean cosmetic brands having entered the Chinese market.
We want to promote the high quality and function of Korean cosmetics by allowing Chinese customers to experience and use the products firsthand.
These days, many local mid-sized companies are benefiting from the transformation of functional substances into cosmetics, allowing the companies to expand their business around Korea and beyond. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
Dozens of digital content creators and professionals from across the globe have gathered in Seoul to exchange their newest ideas for the digital contents industry. Our Park Geun-hye met with some of them and shows us a few of their latest works.
Chung Sung-ha is a young Korean guitarist with several albums and global concerts under his belt, working with various international stars like Jason Mraz. His rise to fame began with a simple video uploaded to YouTube, and now Chung has nearly 3 million subscribers. Yang Ding followed a similar path. As a young female gamer, she creates diverse video sharing contents, mostly broadcasts of games, and has over 1 million YouTube subscribers. They are just a couple examples of the new wave of creators. YouTube Content Operations Director Dave Powell says now is the golden time for individuals to create contents because of the diversity of new media platforms.
Here in Korea, YouTube creators are heralding the one-person startup economy. Fans in Korea and globally are responding. So 25% of our fastest growing channels with international subscribers are endemic or native creators on YouTube. 70% of our fastest growing channels with local or Korean subscribers are created by endemic creators.
Digital technology is affecting more conventional media like television as well. A producer of the US hit program House of Cards says the drama has benefited from big data, which is being used to analyze viewer preferences. However, Hip said that in the end, it's universal themes that capture the attention of viewers, not the technology itself.
Each American network knows their audience and uses tons of research and tons of big data to kind of go in about what makes a show. You can have all the big data you want, but if the artists and the idea isn't something special, then distribution or big data doesn't really matter. It really has to start with the creative first.
This year's International Content Conference has invited guests from all around the world to discuss the latest trends of the industry, from digital technology platforms to big data analysis, and how the technology is changing the nature of the contents they create. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
John Kerry, the U.S. Secretary of State, has issued a stern warning to Islamic State extremists that the world will not be intimidated by their actions.
With more, we turn to Paul Yee at the News Center. Paul, this comes in response to the brutal killing of U.S. aid worker Peter Kasich by IS militants. What else did he have to say to this terrorist group?
Well, America's top diplomat said the U.S. will continue to deeply engage IS in the Middle East in order to stop the potential spread of the group's violence around the world. This as efforts are intensifying to identify and hunt down the Western suspects shown to be killing prisoners in another propaganda video. Our Connie Lee has this report.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry had some strong words for Islamic State militants.
Well, let us be clear. We are not intimidated. You are not intimidated. Our friends and partners are not intimidated. ISIL is very, very wrong.
The statement at a Washington Foreign Policy Forum on Monday comes a day after the White House confirmed the terrorist group beheaded another American, this time 26-year-old aid worker Peter Kasich. Kasich's parents also spoke out on Monday and asked for privacy as they take time to mourn, forgive, and heal.
Our hearts are battered, but they will mend. The world is broken, but it will be healed in the end. And good will prevail, as the one God of many names will prevail.
Meanwhile, Western intelligence officials are now trying to identify the foreign jihadists seen in the latest propaganda video. The video, which also shows the beheading of 18 Syrian prisoners, differs from other videos previously released by IS. This one clearly shows the faces of the fighters and reveals how the group has attracted a good number of foreigners from around the world. It's believed that British and French nationals are among the militants seen killing the captured soldiers. British intelligence officials are looking into 2 British men, with one being 20-year-old Nasser Mouthana, while French officials have identified one of the militants as 22-year-old Maxime Hauchard. According to a human rights monitoring group, IS militants have executed nearly 1,500 people in Syria over the last 5 months. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
And shifting to Africa, hundreds of protesters have taken to the streets in the capital city of Kenya in support of women's rights. The massive demonstration comes in response to a recent series of violent attacks, including an assault on a woman in broad daylight for no apparent reason other than wearing a miniskirt. Our Kim Jong-un has more.
Hundreds of people have taken to the streets of Nairobi with a message: the women have the right to wear what they want. Monday's rally was in response to an attack on a woman last week by a group of men who assaulted and stripped her naked for wearing a miniskirt. Protesters, many in miniskirts or crop tops, chanted "My dress, my choice," calling for an end to violence against women.
This is a journey of liberation. It's not just about dressing. It's about liberation of women from oppression.
The assault in Nairobi is hardly an isolated incident. Similar attacks on women for dressing indecently have also taken place in other Kenyan cities like Nakuru and Mombasa.
Arrest those people, they're criminals. Any person who touched that woman should be arrested and charged for sexual offenses. That was sexual assault.
Some, however, voiced opposition to the protest, saying women should be more responsible for what they wear.
Boys has got responsibility. You cannot go dressing anyhow, doing whatever you do. We have to be responsible as women. No. You can't show us your battles. Yeah.
Kenya's deputy president has condemned the attack as barbaric and called for those that carried it out to be arrested. But there are doubts about a breakthrough in the conservative country where sex crimes are rarely punished. Kim Jong-hye, Arirang News.
And finally, switching gears to the entertainment industry, Oscar-winning actor Matthew McConaughey has received a star on the iconic Hollywood Walk of Fame. The 45-year-old actor was surrounded by hundreds of fans as he was bestowed one of Hollywood's greatest honors on Monday in Los Angeles. Many A-list celebrities joined the historic ceremony, including recent co-star Anne Hathaway and director Christopher Nolan from the sci-fi thriller Interstellar. Joined by his family on the red carpet, McConaughey said it marked the greatest moment in his career and life.
This industry's given me a lot. It's given me a chance to live out some dreams I didn't even know I had. Dreams I'm still finding along the way. And what other business can you actually go live them out? But in this storytelling business that we're in, our greatest export, most original export we have out of our nation comes right out of here.
McConaughey got his big break in the 1993 high school comedy Dazed and Confused. He then went on to appear in more than 40 feature films, winning an Oscar for his lead role in Dallas Buyers Club, and was nominated for an Emmy for his outstanding performance in the TV drama True Detective. And that wraps up our look at international stories making headlines around the world. I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Hello and welcome. I'm Stephen Che with a look at Tuesday's sports. First in the lineup, Nexen Heroes second baseman Seo Gun-chang was named the KBO Most Valuable Player, recognizing his heroic efforts this season. The league capped off the year with an award ceremony in Seoul, and Nexen's hit machine won the MVP award in a near landslide. Seo was unbelievable this year. He became the first player in Korean baseball history to record 200 hits in a season and did it in just 128 games. He also finished with a .370 average for the batting title and 135 runs to lead the league. The 25-year-old earned his 77 of 99 votes cast, beating out teammates Park Geun-hye, Kang Jung-ho, and 20-game winner Andy Van Hecken. Park had 13 votes, Kang had 7, while Van Hecken couldn't secure a single vote. Meanwhile, Samsung's Lions' Rick Vandenhurst got 2 nods. And to the games of the night, first to the lone matchup in the KBL. The KT Sonic Boom played host to the Goyang Orions. And KT blasts out of the gate with 35 first-quarter points as Lee Jae-do explodes on the offensive end. The Orions defense just can't stop KT, allowing the opposition to shoot 60% from the field. And with that, the Sonic Boom get the morale-boosting victory for 2 in a row and to jump to 6th on the standings. And moving to the V-League, the women took the day off today, but the men were in action. In Gumi, the LIG Graders faced off against the Korean Air Jumbos. And the home team LIG take the first 2 sets behind Thomas Edgar and Kim Yo-han's attack before Korean Air flies in for the third. But the Graders are just a bit greater than the Jumbos, taking the 4th set as well, and they get their first back-to-back wins of the season and improve to 3-5 record. And rounding the bases to the MLB, the Miami Marlins and their star outfielder Giancarlo Stanton have agreed on a massive contract extension. The 13-year, $325 million deal is the largest ever sporting contract in North America. Breaking it down, that's about $25 million per season, or $154,000 a game. Also, the deal has a no-trade clause and gives Stanton the option to opt out after 6 years if he chooses to test the market at that time. It's certainly a huge jump for the NL MVP candidate, who made just $6.5 million this year. And that's all I have for now. Stay tuned for your weather up next. Have a great night.
Hello and happy Tuesday. I'm Kim Bo-kyung with your weather updates. So it was another chilly late autumn day here in Korea, and conditions remain dry in some regions, including the eastern coast of Gangwon province as well as both Gyeongsang-do provinces. Humidity levels there have dipped to as low as 23%. At the moment, the nation is enjoying mostly clear skies due to a high pressure front from China, but clouds will gradually move in overnight. Wednesday is shaping up to be similar to today, with a 10-degree gap in temperatures between the day and night. Some good news: that number should climb climb back up to the seasonal average range by tomorrow afternoon. But before that happens, the inland regions may wake up to some morning fog, so be careful on the roads. Other than that, chilly late autumn weather will continue before showers fall on Friday, but things should clear up just in time for the weekend. On to Wednesday's readings. Seoul makes it to 12, while cities down south hit the mid-teens. On to other regions. Jeju tops out at 14, Pokdo reaches 12, Mount Kumgang remains cooler. That's all the updates I have for you this hour. I'll be back with more after midnight. See you then.
And that's Primetime News for this Tuesday. I'm Sean Lim. Thanks for watching.
And I'm Kang Tae-ri. We'll see you again soon. Have a great evening.